Armenian art from the 1950s up to the end of the century. In the mid-1950s, some reforms occurred in the Soviet Union's political and ideological life. These reforms contributed to the development of art, especially painting. Ara Sargsyan, 1902 to 1969, and Suren Stepanyan, 1895 to 1971, were the first great sculptors of the Soviet period. They were the creators of many domes and monuments standing in Armenia, and they made wonderful easel sculptures. They both worked in the traditional way, but in the spirit of that time. Examples include Sargsyan's woman's sculpture and Stepanyan's portrait of my wife. The last was done with high art and skill. Haripsime Simonyan and Ruben Shaverdian are notable for their fertile work in the field of lute sculpture. Their contribution in this practical art is indisputable. Shaverdian was also a well-known painter. In the beginning of the 1960s, a new name appeared in the sphere of Armenian painting: Minas Avatisyan, 1928 to 1975. His place and role is special in the development of Armenian painting. He is one of those few painters who could represent the spirit of his times in such a strong way. Minas painted many landscapes, including Dziajur, 1960, portraits including Spiny Self-Portrait, 1967, still life, and fine monumental frescoes. He also had many stage decorations. Minas was a follower of the great Saryan in Armenian painting. He continued the Saryan line, etching this art with drama. Minas's art is deeply allegorical, and its roots come from the depth of Armenian customs. His contribution in painting plastics and color symbolism is great. Avatisyan's art is one of the peaks of modern Armenian art. Grigor Khanjian was an eminent academic painter who also had graphic works. The design of his works is very important, especially the decoration of Incessant Bell Tower, 1969. Khanjian is a fertile and productive painter, especially in the historical genre. Examples include Vardanank and the alphabet pasteboards, which are done on large tapestries. In his last years, Khanjian worked at large frescoes, which represented almost all the significant events in Armenian history. Historical genre became a beloved subject for another Armenian artist. He was Edvard Izbekian, an eminent painter and a drawer. Hakop Hakopian is one of the popular representatives of modern Armenian art. He returned to his homeland in 1962. Contrary to polycolor and glaring painting of his times, Hakop Hakopian's art is notable for its depressed mood and dead color. He represented the artistic style of Armenian land in a new, special way. His landscapes, still lines, and plots are distinguished by their deep philosophy. From year to year, the philosophical approach of his pictures became deeper, more notable, and important. The 1960s and 70s stand out for a new generation of painters, whose works of art contributed to the evolution of Armenian painting. They stimulated the foundation of the Yerevan Modern Art Museum in 1972 by Heinrich Igityan's hard work and initiative. In the former USSR, it was the first and only museum in its way, and it promoted the development of many directions of painting. Vrir Galstyan, 1924 to 1996, was a remarkable painter on a grand scale. He created fine sculptures and still lines. Seyran Hatlamajian, 1937 to 1994, is also a well-known painter. After a decorative period, including conventional portraits and landscapes, Hatlamajian created brilliant works of abstractionism and became one of the leaders of this art. His canvases are very colorful and emotional. Ashot Hovanesyan followed his own path, the school of simplification and geometrization. Martin Petrosyan, 1936, a painter and a drawer, has a peculiar outlook. The colored palette of his first period turned to a tender, dull, natural colors. Petrosian is a fine stylist of natural forms and shapes, and it is evident in his drawings and decorations. His works are remarkably tender and guide the viewer to the depth of centuries. The works of the painter Heinrich Elbachian, 1936, are many-sided and relate to avant-garde art. Each of his works, canvas, sculpture, painting decoration, is dynamic, mobile, and radiates an explosive energy. He created the first Armenian happenings. Unlike his brother, Robert Elbachian is a lyrical painter, the author of many romantic pictures and graphic works that are generally theatrical, stage, and carnival. Elbachian also created portraits. One of the greatest masters of Armenian painting is Rudolf Khachaturian, 1937. He painted fine portraits and miniatures in a classic style. Khachaturian also has extraordinary abstract figurative compositions. Edward Khazarian's 1939 art is ironic and lyrical. Sergei Parajanov, 1924 to 1990, a world-renowned film director, has a particular place in Armenian art. He was involved in plastic art for many years. He created smooth and volumetric collages, pictures, and costumes, and also decorated his films. Parajanov created his own unprecedented, unique aesthetic. Parajanov had a fine, rich imagination, and he gracefully used the heritage of world art. His art is colorful, paradoxical, and significant. It is attractive with its irony and humor. The art of Gayani Khachaturian, who lives and works in Tbilisi, is special. The painter created a perfectly singular, imaginary art world. The art of the post-Soviet period is characterized by complete creative freedom. As far as ideological pressure, Armenia was the freest among the Soviet republics, but the new times dictated new life conditions. Vartan Tovmasyan is a sculptor. His elements are the theater, the circus, and the life of wandering artists. He also paints romantic scenes on historical subjects. He is especially attracted by the century of knights. Karo Makurchian, 1952 to 2001, developed a lyric dramatic direction in Armenian painting. His works are full of mysterious spirit. Ruben Abovian, who lives in the United States of America, paints canvases where the characters are fantastic and live in an uneasy and restless world. The paintings of designer Kamo Nagirian are deprived of optimism. His art represents the dramatic collusion of a contemporary, conflicting, and crazy world. Sarkis Amalbashian generally paints difficult, multi-layer, large canvas pictures in which he skillfully combines the old and the new, the real and the fictitious, the mythical and the modern. Samvel Chibuhechian creates landscapes and compositions which look lifeless, as if sterile. However, there is some intensity inside. Gabriel Manoukian, undoubtedly, is notable for the joyful, amazing mood of his works. The world he has created has no precedents. Gabriel Manoukian likes to joke, but there is truth and even some bitterness in each joke of his brush. Marini Dilanyan and Teni Vardanyan's pictures are difficult, slightly abstract, and like a fairy tale. Their outlook to the real world is full of irony and women's interest. Some painters are inspired by historical subjects in traditional Armenian painting. One of these is Armen Khojoyan. The source of his inspiration is generally the Armenian miniature. Samvel Garibian is fascinated with European art. Ashot Avagyan's art searches the depth of the centuries back to the ancient cave art, but in reality, his art is modern and contemporary. In the mid-1990s, a new trend appeared in Armenian painting called fantastic allegorical realism. This is a deep, colorful painting, which makes us not only admire these works of art, but also think. The same is Taron Muradian's art, which is full of European mentality and irony. The same is also for Mais Mihitarian, who replaced the characters of Gothic art and presents the plots of the Testament and famous historical events in a new way. Armen Gevorgyan found a world outwardly impassive with static characters, but each of his works is a philosophical parable. Varam Davtyan is a representative of a new painting school. His art is an unreal, large stage where one can see strange characters coming as if from Venice in the 18th century. Artur Zarkarian has his great place in Armenian painting. He now works in the United States of America. It is necessary to mention the following two names among Armenian sculptors: Levon Tokmazyan and Ara Shiraz. Their talent became apparent in the mid-1960s. They opened a new chapter in Armenian modern sculpture. Their interests include monuments, bas-relief, and portraits that are done with different subjects. The generation of sculptors of the 1980s and 1990s enlarged Armenian sculpture art. They boldly and freely used the achievements of the world art and related it to national base. In connection with the Third Republic's formation, small-sized sculpture developed quickly due to troubled economic times. Distinguished masters Samvel Kazaryan, Garagan Davtyan, Norair Karganyan used as materials wood, bronze, and stone with equal mastery. Armenian modern painting isn't confined to the above-mentioned. It is enriched with many other names and trends. The absolute artistic freedom achieved with independence gave the opportunity for Armenian painters to become an essential part of world art. It is the reason for the development of the avant-garde art. The newly opened CNEA, Center for New Experimental Art, and High Art promote this process. The Biennial of Modern Art in Gyumri is an important and fine event. Many new picture galleries have opened in Armenia, especially in the capital, Yerevan. Modern Armenian art is now quickly developing through adaptation to free market conditions. Modern Armenian art is part of the vast culture, created by a small nation in spite of historically unfavorable conditions.